Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another live stream of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel and video game news. Let's hop in. Um, Today is June 1st, so I'm starting to see some video game companies do um, Pride stuff, LGBTQIA Pride stuff more than gay Pride. So I guess at some point when I wasn't paying attention, which was pretty much all of the points in history, it shifted from being specifically gay pride to just everybody. Um, since the A in the QIA is allies, it makes LGBTQIA plus include basically everybody except people that actually are just anti-gay. So at a certain point, they've included so many people they're not even a minority group at that point. Um, their inclusiveness, I guess, has reached its ultimate power. See, is there anything different here? It doesn't really seem like it is, except for maybe they're adding the diamond instructions. That being said, I was platinum and now I'm gold 5. Um, I'll try not to go any further in detail as far as the Pride Month unless something very specifically newsworthy happens. Because it's more political. It's more video game companies getting into political subjects that really has nothing to do with video games. And I try to avoid that as much as possible. Also, at a certain point, it's kind of weird to have these cyclical months where you're supposed to forget everybody else or every other type of person in favor of whoever's the flavor of the month um, that you're supposed to focus on. Like, just seems kind of ridiculous. We should be thinking about all people all the time and treating and being nice to people all of the time. So, yeah. It kind of feels like, and maybe this is a tortured metaphor, but it feels a lot like somebody who's an adult, like an adult 35-year-old saying, "Today's my birthday. Everybody in the world needs to say happy birthday to me." It just doesn't. That's kind of silly and kind of ridiculous to think that the whole world should center around you one day of the year. Why does the game sound so much louder now? Oh, I know why. Ooh, alright, well, we're gonna have to switch over, aren't we? Let's see if this works. Or if this messes it. Yep. There, I was on the wrong scene selection, and I keep the audio fairly louder in the solo scene that I do for pre-recording than in the live scene, which has more going on for it. Gonna have to take a moment here to remember what I'm supposed to be doing. Add that to the graveyard. Today, I'm not particularly expecting it, but I may get a phone call and I may have to just end the stream or pause the stream. Apologies if that does happen, but it is a possibility. Like, I'm not 100% expecting it, but there could be someone that needs my help. I guess you go ahead and do this. For the accountability section, I've been playing Ni no Kuni. There really isn't a ton to say about Ni no Kuni. I screwed up there. It's not working out as as any better than it has been in the previous 40 hours of gameplay. I'm at like 44 hours of gameplay with Ni no Kuni, and I definitely don't feel like I'm getting better at playing the game, or that the game is getting easier. So I'm just kind of slowly making progress and really scratching my head as to how you would actually collect all the familiars, all the Pokemon characters in the game. Seems like there's just too much of that. The game gives me the feeling that I'm halfway through, but narrative and storyline wise, it feels very much closer to being 2/3 of the way through. And it just kind of feels like I would have to grind like crazy to collect all the Pokemon-like characters, to collect all the items, to do alchemy, to make other items, to then either make food to feed up the Pokemon to increase their familiarity with you, or the affinity for you. It's just got way too many crazy systems that you would kind of expect more in a mobile game that you would expect people to play for years and years. And yet, Ni no Kuni is not a mobile game. Although they do have a Ni no Kuni mobile game now. But yeah, I do heavily expect what is going to happen here is I will, for the next few weeks, really just have to continue to play Ni no Kuni and struggle with it, and then eventually... That was probably the wrong one to send to the hand, wasn't it? Eventually I'll finish Ni no Kuni and then move on to a different game, definitely not an RPG game at that level. And I was not expecting to see the Winged Dragon of Ra. Alright, well. At this point, I think I have to summon a 3-star. And we'll go ahead and take that, and that. Oh yes, I can do this. Okay. Also, I wonder if I was to I probably couldn't use this for anything. That would be my guess. There, I probably couldn't sacrifice that to summon anything. So I guess we're back on the path of hoping to get items, to getting wins to get back up to platinum, and maybe we'll make it even to diamond by the end of this month. It seems like there might be quite a bit of video game news, so I may need to be fairly careful about just moving very fast. Let's go ahead and do that. At the end of the turn, you banish both of these cards. Let's see. YouTube Gaming is congratulating somebody, Tank R, for getting 3 million subscribers. Which, yeah. YouTube Gaming still trying to highlight some useful bits of information, but not really getting a lot of support. If I am going to talk about YouTube for a moment here, Bo Burnham's Netflix special Inside came out about a year ago to the date. I think today pretty much is to the date, or yesterday was to the date, a year. And it was not good in my opinion. Bo Burnham's first two comedy specials are a comedian who is an edgy surrealist comedian that was just doing dirty jokes, and at some point Bo Burnham became extremely woke, and I won't speculate as to how, and made a movie about a teenage girl going through high school and I think being bullied. So it was this weird anti-bullying movie that really made no sense that he, being a white male, would be writing or making a movie about that story, about that kind of character. And Inside is really a lot more of just an actual, like, legitimate attempt at making woke comedy, which is basically a joke in itself to say that there is actual woke comedy out there and that it would actually succeed. If anything, I would say the outtakes, which they put on YouTube instead of putting it as a extra on Netflix to bring people back to Netflix, a lot of the outtakes probably should have been left in, and Bo Burnham is the editor in his own video, and honestly, if he had just been handed over that work to some remote editor, because it was recorded during the pandemic, or the heyday of the pandemic, if he had had another editor involved in it, they could have used the outtakes and the parts that were left on the cutting room floor, because there's really, almost as long as Inside is, there's that much outtakes, and that may be fairly typical for for any production, but it definitely felt like there was content there that could have been reused. But the outtakes themselves don't make Inside any better either. The thing is, he was a musician comedian, and his music sucks in Inside, and his comedy sucks in Inside. He's just not the person that people grew to love. Of course, that's just my opinion. I'm sure there is some contingent of people out there that really do enjoy his later output. I'm just definitely not one of them. And all of that is really to set up kind of my shock and dismay that yesterday Bo Burnham's Inside Outtakes was #1 on trending on YouTube. And why was it #1 on trending on YouTube? I can't even really call it a tinfoil hat theory. He has definitely hobnobbed and rubbed elbows with the CEO of YouTube. He definitely is in the crowd of the people that YouTube wants to promote and make successful. If really absolutely nobody put their thumb on the algorithm and told it to promote his creation, his outtake video, it just kind of makes it worse, because then that does really go to show the problem with the YouTube algorithm, in that somebody can put out basically no videos at all on their YouTube channel for 5 months to a year, and then when they put out their next video, it's super successful just because 5 months previous there was a super successful one. Because that is pretty much how the YouTube algorithm has been said to work. But boy, is that annoying for any content creator that's trying to make videos once a month, once a week, or somebody like me that wants to make a lot of content and is putting out videos 2-3 times a day. I bet his video, the Inside Outtakes, also got a lot of engagement, which is another reason why the algorithm would promote it, because it's something you're not highly likely to watch a few minutes of and stop watching. You could do that, but because the outtakes jump around every couple minutes, you're going to see something different every time, which also makes an argument that if more people made supercut ADD videos that were several hours long, but it was just always every couple minutes jumping to something different in one long video, you could probably manipulate the algorithm quite a bit, even though they are probably making steps to stop that from working. It works at the moment. But yeah, suffice it to say, I was not impressed. The only song I even liked on Inside was like the first half of Welcome to the Internet, but then it changes in pace, it changes in dialogue and theme halfway through. So there's not a single song in the entire skit. Not really a single song that I enjoyed all the way through. Moving on back directly to video games, since that's what we're supposed to be talking about. Will Arnett has been signed on to voice Sweet Tooth in the Twisted Metal series at Peacock, which in all actuality he seems to be more than willing to take any and every job. I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out he owes a lot of taxes or something. But yeah, if he is going to voice it and only voice it, then that does imply that this Twisted Metal series may very well be animated, which that's fine. It just doesn't seem like that's really something that they've been telling people. Let's see. THQ Nordic has launched a new office in Asia called THQ Nordic Singapore, according to their Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, The Completionist was retweeted by XPlay on Twitter, and The Completionist has like 250,000 followers on Twitter, whereas XPlay only has 150,000 followers. I didn't even read what he tweeted though, so I don't really care what he has to say. But it does certainly, at this point, I think, really just once again put a nail in the coffin of XPlay and G4 coming back, when you can see that the YouTube celebrity that they hired is still way more followed and popular on Twitter, if that is any real metric to actually use, which maybe it isn't. But yeah, they've really blown any opportunity they had, or proven that there never was any opportunity in the first place to bring back G4. I seem to have a ton of news, so I'm going to just try to burn through a lot of this real fast. Ubisoft appears that the Assassin's Creed Origins 60 frames per second update is imminent. We'd already talked about that one, and we'd already talked about this. June's PlayStation Plus games have been confirmed by a regular leaker. We already talked about that. Jeez. Wonder why we're why there's so many redundant news articles popping up here. Yeah, I can't do anything. I'm gonna lose here. Let's see. Video Games Chronicle says another YouTuber has removed all of Nintendo music after strikes. It's clear they don't want it on YouTube. A prominent channel says it received 500 plus copyright strikes from the company, which I don't think 500 plus copyright strikes would leave a channel up unless YouTube has finally implemented some kind of system where they won't let one entity take down channels anymore. I would suspect what they're calling copyright strikes are actually content ID claims by YouTube, by Nintendo. And it certainly is the case, if you don't get into the weeds here, that this guy may be uploading just the game soundtracks. Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. Is he's literally not anywhere close to fair use. He's just putting the soundtracks up on YouTube. Yeah, it says 500 plus claims in the actual quotes, so this is an example of Video Game Chronicles writing the headline wrong and not even understanding what they're talking about, and just bad news reporting. the thing here is, if you were going to try to put all the Nintendo soundtracks or all of any soundtracks up, you're pretty much going to have to you would pretty much have to constantly criticize it, constantly talk over it, and constantly clip it up so that you couldn't actually listen to the music. Now, inherently, Nintendo could solve this problem themselves by just putting on their own YouTube channel or making a split YouTube channel a YouTube soundtracks channel themselves. Then they could put their own music up on YouTube and get ad revenue for soundtracks that most people would never bother to listen to in any other form and aren't going to really buy. Most of the Nintendo soundtracks over the course of history are long since out of print. But then they probably would have to renegotiate some licenses if they did try to put it on YouTube. Or at least they think they'd have to renegotiate some licenses to do that. But yeah. This really is a case where you are, even as a YouTuber, as much as I would like to be able to support somebody doing very little work and just uploading soundtracks to YouTube, it's not anywhere close to something that feels like it would have ever been allowed. Like, even if you were doing a ridiculous amount of playlist and like sorting and labeling and putting good thumbnails and art, and if you were really putting a lot of work, just like the maximum work you could possibly imagine around converting a sound file into a YouTube video, it's still really not that much work. It's not enough creative input. Like, best case scenario, you would have somebody like Anthony Fantano or something criticizing it, criticizing the music. I would more support somebody doing a cover of a Nintendo song, playing it on piano and or singing it with no backing track from the original version of the song. At least that would be creative input, way more creative input. And certainly, as a YouTube video game critic who's putting up long plays of games, like, it definitely irks me when I see people putting up like gameplay videos with no commentary at all, and that's a selling point that people are actually looking for on YouTube, is that they don't want to hear people talking or adding any input. They just want to watch somebody playing a video game like a movie. Which at a certain level, maybe video game companies should put up their own forms of no commentary gameplay videos if they're going to do something like that, and then start taking down people that aren't doing anything close to fair use in comparison. At the very least, then it would kind of make sense. This is an interesting story from Video Games Chronicle. The French government apparently has banned English game terms like streaming and esports. Government workers must no longer use English gaming jargon. which is just probably the French just being the French and saying you have to say it in France. They want to preserve the purity of the French language and ensure game players in France don't use anglicized terms for activities and concepts that can be explained in French. Yeah. So this is the French just trying to keep the French and the French language relevant and unique. And I wouldn't say that the French language is particularly bad, but there is a point we're reaching, certainly as far as languages, where France as a country is not quite big enough to have its own language, considering how nobody really is speaking French in any other countries. There are some like Caribbeanized versions of French and Creole French in Louisiana, but those are not the pure French that a French speaker would actually come to expect. Examples given here we can see is that the term pro gamer should be replaced with joueur professionnel, if I pronounce that anywhere close, and streamer should be joueur amateur in direct. And cloud gaming should be jeux vidéo en nuage. But you can also see how, if we look at each of these terms, the number of syllables is more. Pro gamer is 3. Joueur professionnel is 4. Streamer is 2. Joueur animateur en direct is like 7. And then cloud gaming is 3. Then jeux vidéo en nage is 4 again. So this is not a simplification of saying the words by any means. They are longer terms, longer words, and they are more syllables. In the same way, you can kind of say anything in German because the words can just get longer and longer and longer. That doesn't inherently mean that everybody should be speaking the German language, or that is the best way to do it. If anything, you always need to consider the ability to be subtle and still be understood in languages. But then you also don't want to go so subtle, where there are times in like the Japanese language, which is often an incredibly subtle language, but there are often times there where the phrase is not 100% understood, and it could mean one thing or it could mean something slightly different. I would say the French are probably about the only country that would make official rulings, and who knows how much you actually have to follow those rules, or if it's just government officials are being told to follow these rules and they probably don't really have to, if they, or don't get really punished if they don't. But yeah, I don't think there's too many other countries that would limit speech in that way, particularly for such a somewhat petty reason or narcissistic reason. Moving on, the Monument Valley games are coming to PC with new widescreen aspect ratio. I remember playing these on my cell phone and getting them for free. They went on sale for free a couple of times. So if they come to PC, it gives me a decent reason to potentially go back and play them. They're kind of simplistic games. You play through them once and that's about it. So it'd probably be a little redundant to play them a second time. And they almost certainly aren't going to they almost certainly aren't going to add a ton of content in the PC version or be particularly well suited for being in the being on PC. If anything, I would kind of consider it an example of mobile game sort of failing, good mobile games failing to succeed well enough that they are coming to PC to try and have a second bite at the apple. Which is kind of a shame, certainly. I would like to see mobile games actually succeed. My clock is messed up because I didn't start the recording on the live stream scene. Well, banish this and this. And then I'll take this, I think. Then we have to send that. And then we have to send that, I guess. Nope, I should have sent the other one. I screwed up. I really need to move fast because I'm feeling fairly sleepy. New Pokemon Scarlet and Violet trailers and details are coming on Wednesday, so these have kind of come out, and we'll talk about them as they happen. eFootball won't be getting a Master League mode until 2023. Veteran Final Fantasy producer Shinji Hashimoto has retired. He also helped create Kingdom Hearts series during nearly 3 decades at Square Enix. If anything, this might be another indication of Square Enix falling apart, losing a major producer. And Final Fantasy kind of has been all over the place anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised if the next couple of Final Fantasy games are even different, even more different. New Xbox Game Pass titles for console, PC, and cloud have been dated. Assassin's Creed Origins, Ninja Gaiden Master Collection, and Chorus. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that game, Chorus, coming out. A Summer Game Fest has revealed a lineup of over 30 participating companies. If you want to check out that article, check it out yourself. And then the first Sonic Frontiers gameplay have been revealed in a new teaser trailer. And the teaser trailer does seem to show a larger, more open area than I think anyone was expecting. I think most people were kind of expecting it to be an open area. Inherently large grasslands with trees and grass are something that you can just pre-buy as assets. And he seems to be fighting a different style robots compared to Sonic 1 or something like anything like Sonic 1. Definitely it feels like Sonic Frontiers has evolved from the fan projects that have come about showing big open worlds. So, yeah. Yeah, kind of hope Sonic Frontiers works, but at the core of it, they've got to make Sonic, in my opinion, have a slightly different move set and a slightly different ability set. Like, yes, he has to kind of run around in an open world, but him jumping on characters alone is not going to be good enough, and he needs something. I'm not sure I know exactly what he needs. Right, you destroy that one. We'll see. See if we can pull this off. Also, I've yet to see that many good Sonic games recently. I don't think there has been a good one since Sonic 3, it would be many people's opinion. Moving on, June's Xbox Live games with gold titles have been confirmed. It includes Avian Colony, Project Hi-Ray's Architects Edition, and Super Meat Boy, and Rascals. Which, okay, that's more games. The 60 frames per second update for new gen consoles arrives on June 2nd. So we do have a actual date there. And I got a free victory. And I will consider that lucky, because I really wasn't going to win. Let's see, Shenmue creator Yu Suzuki has a new game coming to Apple Arcade in June. It's kind of weird, though, that they're even releasing games. For Apple Arcade. The game is called Air Twister. It's a fantasy endless shooter from the studio. It may not actually be from Yu Suzuki, but seems like it is. It also doesn't really seem like much of a game, though. And frankly, I'm not sure the Shenmue creators have ever actually been good at making games, because the Shenmue games are also fairly rough. Let's see. June's Xbox update lets players reveal secret achievements. This also improves the speed and reliability of detecting updates. Allows the ability for players to reveal details about secret achievements, including the titles, achievement description, and gamer scores. Which Steam has basically let you do that from the beginning, because you could always look at the global leaderboard of achievements and then it would tell you what the secret achievements are. The concept of secret achievements makes a little bit of sense, but only to stop spoilers, and I don't think people that are going to look at achievements care about spoilers in the first place, so it really is something that probably didn't need to exist in the first place. It would almost have made more sense for them to just say all achievements are spoilers, so all achievements should be somewhat secret, And anybody that's willing to go and look at the achievement list and try to work towards achievements is effectively going to spoil themselves. At a certain point, I feel like achievements should be happy little rewards and surprises, not goals to work towards. Like the times that I dislike achievements are definitely the times when a game is really grindy and then it's asking you to do some more grinding for an achievement. And that is definitely the times when I'm not interested in getting 100% of the achievements. Also, as a PC player playing on Steam, you'd never get a highlight. You never get highlighted for getting achievements until you get all of the achievements anyways. So, yeah. If there's even a single achievement that you look at and realize it would take more work than it's worth, you'll at that point will abandon them trying to get any of them. Here's a picture of what it's going to look like, I suppose. It's just going to be press this button to reveal details. Let's see. Game Freak co-founder Junichi Masuda has left to join the Pokemon Company, which I don't think there's much of a difference there, really. I think maybe Game Freak has worked on a couple of other things since they made the first Pokemon games. But generally, working for the Pokemon Company versus working for Game Freak is about the same. It very much could be a non-issue. I still think Game Freak is fairly involved in making most of the mainline Pokemon games. Although that might change as they get more 3D and start changing. Again, yawning already. Super Bomberman R Online is ending after just 18 months, but Konami promises new projects in the series are in development. So, yeah. There is definitely a danger in trusting Konami to support anything when you see news like this. Although the good news to that part is it does seem like there isn't a it doesn't seem like there's a lot of online Konami games at the moment that people would want to play, with the exception of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, which if they shut down Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel after 18 months, I think a lot of people would be very upset, and it would be incredibly stupid. I think Duel Links is still being supported. I wouldn't be surprised if Duel Links is still getting even content updates, since it is a different kind of mobile game. It would make a lot more sense if Duel Links got shut down first to then be afraid of Konami shutting down Master Duel. But I don't know why they would shut down Master Duel in favor or in some insane thought that they could push people to playing some other kind of Yu-Gi-Oh game. Like, the only thing missing from Master Duel at the moment is an integration to the anime series, and it wouldn't be that hard to integrate the anime series at a certain level. You just have to add some solo story modes where you played the major battles from the anime series. And we kind of already have that. It would just be animating or copying animation from a previous game. In fact, you could probably take some of the story from Duel Links and copy it over to Master Duel and just change how the actual battles play, and that would satisfy that little gap. Or you can just never add that element to Master Duel and it's still the best Yu-Gi-Oh game by far in probably a decade or more. Moving on back to news, 18 European countries' consumer groups have joined to fight against loot boxes. The group backs a Norwegian report calling for a ban on deceptive design in video games. Which, yeah, it definitely feels like Europe is going to head the way as far as not really allowing loot boxes. This guy is, I think, trying to make me run out of cards. But if he is, I think he's gonna fail kind of miserably at that, because it's not gonna work. He's gonna have to end his turn at some point, and if I have to discard a bunch of cards, that just plays into my strategy. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet got a new trailer and November release date, which honestly this makes me just want to give up on any hope of playing any Pokemon game, because in this 1 year you've had, I don't think my blur is working here. No, it isn't. Like, in this 1 year you've had Pokemon Legends Arceus, and you've had the Let's Go Pikachu and Eve, which maybe that came out last year, but it definitely feels like this year. And you've had Shiny Diamond and Pearl remakes on Switch. And it feels like Pokemon Snap came out somewhere around 12 to 16 months ago. Like, and that's completely ignoring any mobile Pokemon games or continuing Pokemon Go experiences. It's a lot, to say the least. And I just don't know if I ever would have the time or desire to go that route and go and play any Pokemon game as a JRPG. It's still going to effectively be a JRPG, even if they put a lot of optimizations to save time. And I really would lean more towards either playing Dragon Quest or Monster Hunter. Yeah, this trailer looks interesting, to say the least. But let's start with this one. Destroy all attack position monsters. Start with that. We'll also, I guess, go ahead and start with that. Oh, that card got banished. Let's see. Just continuously try and negate effect monsters, I guess. Which one do we want to toss? I guess that one. Go ahead and set this. Go activate this. Set this one. Go ahead and set this one. Go ahead and set this one. Summon this. I guess what I really would wish for is that there would be some way to dip your toe into playing Pokemon without actually having to commit to playing a full game of Pokemon. And I don't know how you could do that other than just the introduction of a easy system. Like something that, like just an easy mode that would significantly reduce the amount of fights and battles you would have to have. Or gyms that effectively scaled to the level of the player, so you actually could just go from the first gym to the second gym and you wouldn't have to grind at all and level up any of your Pokemon in between them. And I don't know if that's something that really accommodates a lot of players, or if it just accommodates people like me, of which there's very few, that just want to say they've played Pokemon without actually playing it. Let's see if this wins for us. Let's see. Moving on, the Take-Two boss ones, it may not end well for companies betting on blockchain-based metaverses. Charles Zelnick says he doesn't believe in the word metaverse means guaranteed success. Which, thank goodness, we're starting to see somebody at least have some sense in their head. But I guess that also just means Take-Two has not made some weird metaverse blockchain-based game that they're ready to announce. Apparently, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet will let up to 4 players explore freely in an open world. Is that on one game disc? 4 players does this weird thing where you need now like 4 starter characters instead of your standard 3 starter characters, and they've thrown in Pokemon Pikachu as a 4th. You're not in an order dictated by the story, so you can just kind of wander around, it seems like. But that you'd almost assume that there's a certain level of that can't be true, that you're going to be in a late game area and the characters are still going to be at low levels. Unless they're just getting rid of the concept of levels in total, and everything is going to effectively be a low level. The question, though, that's not being answered here is, if 4 players can wander around freely and do whatever they want, that's great and all, but is there something that 4 players or even 2 players can do together? Are there going to be co-op Pokemon battles? Can a partner help you in a Pokemon battle? Or does it effectively create just a invisible barrier that says, no, this one player is trying to catch Pokemon right now, and they're locked into a battle, so you can't get anywhere near them or help in any way? It is good to see that the engine potentially can handle 4 players. Arguably, they should have started with just 2 players like the Lego games. And it is, I guess, good to see that the 4 players are probably going to be on the same level as far as what they can do, so it's not just going to be a little sister mode or little brother mode where they can barely do anything to assist, which is how we've seen some of the Mario games go down that path. Alright. Let's activate this. And let's see what we can do. This. 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 Half that. Half that. Half that. And half that. Let's see. Take-Two CEO also says having its games on subscription services on day one doesn't make sense. Which really just, with these 2 stories back to back, makes him come off as kind of a contrarian, but there frankly should be some contrarian companies that go in different directions. It's kind of ridiculous for everybody to just play follow the leader. Let's see, Diablo Immortal is out a day early on mobile, and the global PC release times have been confirmed. Starting today, players can preload Diablo Immortal for PC. Diablo Immortal is, I think, the mobile game kind of remake of the first game. That being said, I think it may have more character classes. And it really, I guess, can't be a remake of the first game because I don't think this monster was in the first game. The fact that it doesn't even make it sense as to what it is kind of a problem. Is it coming out on Steam or is it still battle.net? Yeah, that's another thought. I would definitely say that Activision Blizzard hasn't been acquired by Microsoft, so there's no reason to give Diablo Immortal the time of day yet. Come to it after the acquisition has happened and Microsoft actually has shown some level of wanting to actually improve things at Activision Blizzard first. Because if it is a case where Activision Blizzard gets acquired by Microsoft and Bobby Kotick is still in charge and the same people are still in charge, then I don't think there's a real reason to support Diablo Immortal or have a lot of faith that there would be enough of a player base there to where they would support the game for the long haul. Because it is going to be a bit of an uphill battle in general just to convince people to play Diablo Immortal, even after Microsoft takes over. Yeah, I am done. Let's see. A new customizable Xbox Pride controller will be released this month. At a certain level, it stops being the Pride flag and it just becomes some kind of 80s art style. Also, the game Tell Me Why, which I think is a story about someone who's gay or lesbian. I don't remember which. Will be free this month. Yeah, and at a certain point, if the Pride logo is going to be every color in the rainbow, that seems a little crazy. I've been going about an hour and I'm yawning, so what I think I'm gonna do is a little weird. I'm gonna just mute myself and then walk around my house and stretch my legs and just try to wake myself up. Just give myself a minute or two of exercise and then I'll be right back and we'll hop back into the news. So, apologies for this, but I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I should have, come to think of it, just started the Duel live instead of leaving it on nothing. But yeah, that should help a little bit to stretch your legs and just get the blood flowing. Let's see. We're still going through the Video Games Chronicle articles. June's PlayStation Plus games have been officially confirmed. God of War, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, Naruto the Burrito. I think those have been leaked already. Let's see. I think we pretty much already talked about the 7-minute Sonic Frontiers gameplay video showing off the open world. The basic concepts of Sonic is that you have Dr. Robotnik kidnapping echidna type creatures, or not just echidnas, but animal creatures in general, and stuffing them into robots. That's my general understanding of what goes on in a Sonic game. Sonic runs fast, he collects a bunch of rings, although oddly, in the trailer that I saw, I really didn't see any rings at all, so I almost wonder if they're getting rid of the concept of rings. Having a bunch of rings in a big 3D open world, particularly if they have to be reflective of the world and potentially even want to have them have ray tracing around the world, would be very demanding. I imagine you wouldn't have them be reflective or ray tracing, or they would look sort of like they reflect, but they would very poorly reflect. If anything, you could make a narrative reason why the rings are all rusted in Sonic Frontiers. It could be like a Breath of the Wild set far into the future, and you could push them to being more bronze and rusty instead of gold and shiny. You also would want to see Chaos Emeralds. You're not seeing Sonic Tails. You're not seeing Knuckles. You're not seeing any of the other characters. At a certain point, any game you make that is going to be open world, it gets away from that track mentality that you would want in a Sonic game, and this has always been the problem with trying to bring Sonic into 3D, is it does get away from the track mentality. I don't know if there's a way to ever do both at the same time. There probably isn't. And that it's probably something that is just going to have to be abandoned. And Sonic is going to effectively just be Mario in Mario 64 or Mario Odyssey, wandering around 3D environments. Although, if you look to Odyssey, Odyssey does have certain sequences where you go down pipes and then it turns to that flat 2D animation style from Super Mario Brothers. So if they could make an equivalent of that where you went through some kind of portal in Frontiers and then Sonic becomes a flat version of himself in a flat 2D world, and they just stole that concept completely outright, that would probably be your best solution there. Yeah. Give the open 3D world environment most of the time. Every now and then, for nostalgia's sake, have Sonic go into a flat 2D area. In Mario Odyssey, there's very, very few points in which you're actually in the flat 2D world, anyways, it's probably less than an hour out of a 60-hour game that you're actually in the flat 2D world. I can't play where these servers are having network troubles, but my computer's not having network troubles, so I'll leave it at that. We already talked about Will Arnett has joined the Twisted Metal TV show as the voice of Sweet Tooth. He's also serving as an executive producer, which means nothing, really. People get executive producer credits all the time for just being famous or powerful and influential. Let's see. Ubisoft isn't planning to hold its own E3 style showcase in June, which isn't having to come out and say that is interesting. This is interesting. It says it's connecting, and yet I can't do anything. So it looks like I'm going to surrender here just because of a network error. Let's see. The company's next major project showcase is planned for later this year. It's interesting that the news is that something won't happen. And then a second Call of Duty Warzone 2 map is reportedly in development. Alright, moving on to the Gemetsu articles. I think it already talked about this Retro Fighter 5 DLC. Genshin Impact version 2.7 update is now available. That took... I'm just stuck here. I can't do anything. I may have to exit out of the game completely. We'll give this like a minute, but I do think the connecting has just popped up as kind of a pop-up, whether it is actually trying to connect or not. And that's made it impossible to click on anything else. AI to Somnium Files Nirvana initiate details new Somnium elements and 3 new characters. We're getting teaser bits of information about Nirvana every couple of days. I'm still not really sure what AI the Somnium Files it actually is as a game. Right. This might create a situation where this is a weird looking guy. We might exit out of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel and find that I can't exit back into it. Right, so how will we do this? We'll bring up the Steam interface, I guess, and then we'll click the stop button to exit the game that way, and then we'll hit the play button to launch it again. We'll just see if this connecting happens, which it does seem to have happened. Good. And then we really don't have anything else to do but play ranked. Let's see. DNF Duel online mode has a trailer. I guess specifically showing off the online mode if you want to check that out on Gematsu. The Acquired Game Showcase broadcast is set for June 5th, so that's an announcement for an announcement. Soul Hackers 2 Summoner's Guide Volume 4 video is now out if you want to check that out on Gematsu. Star Ocean The Divine Force news is set for late June. It's odd we're getting all these announcements for announcements, and some of them are coming out just in at the end of the month seems kind of ridiculous to bother to even say anything at that point. Romancing Saga Minstrel Song Remastered has been announced for basically everything, which Saga is short for Scarlet Grace. This definitely looks like they've done a kind of low polygon, probably low effort remaster of either an old game or a mobile game. I'd assume mobile game, considering how it seems like it's going to be released for mobile platforms again. Is there anything to do yet? Nope. Let's see, White Day 11th Named School is coming to PS5, Xbox Series and Switch in September. Which I think I sometimes confuse the White Day series with the Root Letter series. It definitely looks like a Japanese horror adventure game. It's either already out on PC or it's not coming to PC, would be my guess, and I think it's already out on PC. I really should jump into playing some horror games as soon as I'm done with Ni no Kuni. I don't know if I have anything recorded or set up for October, and honestly, at any point now, content could just stop airing on my channel as far as pre-recorded content, and I may just let it happen and restart and retry next year in January or something like that. I don't know, even know if there's really a reason to retry in January particularly. But yeah, I could see myself just being so far behind. Plus, I also have to admit that the Alchemy game that is airing right now on my channel and the Fallout game that's airing on my channel right now, neither one of them feel like they are particularly succeeding at getting views. And that is disappointing, although that is kind of the case for a lot of pre-recorded content, is that it doesn't day one get any views, and it's not until later that it starts to get even a few views. And at a certain point too, I am still just playing games because I want to play them, not because I want to get views on YouTube. And I don't want that to change. I still want to be a gamer first and not just a YouTube tryhard, for lack of a better term. I guess you play this? Let's continue here. Saint Kotar for basically every console is coming out October 14th. It looks like it's a point and click. That is because it is a point and click. It's been a while since we've seen somebody really try to release a point and click, or even release any point and click at all, whether or not they were trying. Okay. This guy doesn't seem like he can use his ability for some reason. Let's see, we already talked about Monument Valley, the Panoramic Collection being announced for PC. I guess the Panoramic Collection is the name of it. A multiplayer spin-off, Destroy All Humans Clone Carnage, is now available for PS4, Xbox One, and PC, which probably is not a terrible thought to just try and do more with the Destroy All Humans content that they used to remaster Destroy All Humans and bring it out. It probably keeps it in people's minds and makes it slightly more logical. It's probably a more logical thing to do than trying to rush out a Destroy All Humans 3 or a remake of a reboot of Destroy All Humans. Man, I'm still very sleepy and tired. What happened is I was woken up earlier than I wanted to be woken up, so that led to me being now sleepy, although it's not really a great excuse because I'm almost always sleepy anyways. You know what, actually I do want to just activate this. So did that build enough cards now that we can evolve our fourth? I think it did. And start attacking. Yeah, I think we may just want to end. I may just want to end on a victory here as far as playing Yu-Gi-Oh! We got 2 out of 3 daily quests done. We'll start to do live, and then I think we'll just try and burn through the news super fast here. See, Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed launches August 30th, which is the Reprobed subtitle is a remake of the original Destroy All Humans 2, so they are remaking the Destroy All Humans series, which is interesting because it kind of indicates that they've done as much as they can do with Darksiders, and THQ is now moving to Destroy All Humans, and that really makes it feel like they're going to scrape the bottom of the barrel going forward, because they don't have that many good games to bring back and remake. Remember, the original THQ was mostly licensed products and kids games. So yeah, as much as the Embracer Group may be embracing companies, they really don't have a lot to say about their lineup. We already talked about the Square Enix producer retiring. We've already talked about the Game Pass. We've already talked about Summer Game Fest and Sonic Frontiers teaser and Xbox Games Gold. Don't Nod Entertainment has rebranded as Don't Nod. 2 words with an apostrophe between the N and the T, which seems kind of ridiculous that they wouldn't have just done that in the first place. Let's see, a game called Frogger and the Rumble Ruins have been announced for Apple Arcade, which I kind of like this animation style for a Frogger game, but actual game is questionable. Doesn't really feel much like a Frogger game as much as it feels like it might be a puzzle game with some odd card-based upgrades. Cooking Mama Cuisine has been announced for Apple Arcade, so there must have been an Apple Arcade announcement if all these weird side games have been announced. EaseNet announces the game Air Twister for Apple Arcade, which, yeah, I guess it's a flying in the air shooting bullets, bullet hell shooter. I forgot what game that is like. There's a specific game that established that gameplay style, and I forget the name of it. Made in Abyss Binary Star Falling into Darkness launches September 2nd for PS4, Switch, and PC. And here we can see the very long limbs of these very young characters in the Made in Abyss series. They seem to be introducing a couple new characters for the game, unless the manga or anime series also introduced those characters. We already talked about Super Bomberman R Online ending its service on December 1st. And we already talked about Junichi Musada leaving Game Freak to become the Pokemon Company's chief creative fellow. Interesting they're using the phrase fellow instead of officer, but honestly that's probably a better term. Like, if we are just going to arbitrarily change names and titles, changing all the CEOs from Chief Executive Officer to Chief Executive Fellow probably wouldn't be a terrible idea. Although, at a certain point, why not just simplify it and make it Chief Executive for CEO and Chief Financial Officer, Chief Financier. You could get rid of the O part completely. The officer screams military, certainly as a idea, and running a business is not really anything much like running the military. And comparisons like that is kind of ridiculous. Famitsu has the review scores for Fishing Paradiso, giving it 32 out of 40, and Tokoyo, the Tower of Perpetuity, giving it 29 out of 40. Perpetuity. I haven't even heard of this Fishing Paradiso game, but yeah, I guess it doesn't really look like much either. Tekken 7 Tales of top 9 million, and the Tekken series overall has top 53 million, according to Gamatsu's article, which is probably according to the makers of Tekken. Perforei Episodo 1926 launches September 22nd in the West. This looks like a young maiden otome visual novel, which that's exactly what it is. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet launches November 18th. A game called Witchbook has a Steam page launched with new screenshots, which definitely makes it feel like it is far too early of a game to be actually talked about by Gamatsu. We already talked about the PlayStation Plus monthly games for June and the Sonic Frontiers. Warhammer 40k Darktide Rejects Will Rise trailer is available on Gamatsu if you want to check that out. And then Warhammer 40k Shootas and Blood and Teeth launches October 20th, and this is an odd, flat 2D animation style game. And I don't think there's ever been a Warhammer 40k game in that art style. They've always tried to go 3D, much to their own failure, in my opinion. So maybe a Warhammer 40k would make more sense if they put a little bit less budget in the animation and more budget into making the games actually good, because they're never really well received. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 Foundations of War Developer Diary. This is probably still going to be more of a modern 3D animation. And then Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr coming to PS5 and Xbox Series in 2022. Man, boy, have they once again made too many Warhammer 40k games for their own good. And then a retro style first person shooter Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun has been announced for basically everything. Yeah, they are just throwing spaghetti at the wall at this point. Now, our final Gamatsu article is Owlcat Games announces a CRPG Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader for consoles and PC. Character RPG, not Chinese RPG, I assume. Right. And so let's really quickly just burn through games that came out. I Human Machine I'll give a follow to. Beanstalk, I think no, it's probably just a little too much of an asset flip game, although it doesn't look that bad. You know what, I will give it a follow. I don't want to make decisions today. Dangerous Drift, we can say no to. Two Colors, we can say no to. Office Run, we can say no to. Beat the Clock is a nope. Heaven Snakes Beta is a nope. Erroneous is a nope. Hellscape is a text-only game, so no. Lawnmower game is a joke game, so no. Actually, we don't have that many games. Yeah, we have a Chinese game that doesn't support English, so no. Patient, give a follow to. Nuts Space Shooter is a side-scroll shooter, so no. Zen Konas, some kind of puzzle game, so I'm gonna say no to that. Silt is already mixed, but I'm gonna give it a follow anyways. Shake Ground, looks like nothing. Castle Reborn might be something, so I'll give it a follow. Build Ninja Academy looks like nothing. Disinfection, it's probably nothing, but I'll give it a follow. Mini Putt Camelot is a mini golf game, and I don't think I like the low polygon characters in a mini putt game. It seems unnecessarily ugly. Tiny Folks, I'll give a follow to this, although I probably wouldn't play it. Square Journey is a no. Slayer is a no. Insect Swarm, I'll say no. Polar Bear Riding a Ninja is a joke game, so no. Death Run TV, yeah, there might be something there, so I'll give it a follow. The Dream Team is an RPG maker, so no. Operation Defensive looks terrible, so no. Cyber Virus also looks terrible, so no. Destroy All Humans Clone Carnage, we'll give a follow to. Momentum doesn't look like anything. Police Shootout, I don't know if I really want to play a game where you're playing as a police officer at this point in my life ever, but I'll give it a follow. Fishing Paradiso, yeah, maybe, probably not. Murdo's Quest, this looks like a platformer, so no. Hack and Slime, looks like there might be something to this, so I'll give it a follow. We got about 10 more games that came out since Monday. Grim Tranquility might be something. Just trying to burn through all this real quick because I'm just really sleepy and really need to go back to sleep. Yeah, this game doesn't look like anything. Board Defense looks like a tower defense game, so no. Mad Bulls, playing as a bull might be fun, but it'd have to be like Goat Simulator or something. It'd have to have a lot of content and be visually polished a little bit more, so I'm gonna say no to it. It Simulator just looks like an asset flip horror game, so no. Animadix 4 is a no, because I know that there are 3 previous versions of this game that are the exact same animation, and it's just somebody trying to sell something that looks like Cuphead, but really is a very low effort kind of name confusion game, although it's not even really trying to do name confusion. Leap is mostly negative already, so I'm gonna say no to that. Airhead, we'll give a follow to that. A punk rock puzzle is an interesting idea, but I'm gonna say no to it just because it's a jigsaw puzzle game anyways. Hop dodge doesn't look good enough. The other wild looks like it's probably just an asset flip fantasy game. Merge beast defense game looks like a mobile game. And a world of a mermaid looks like a mobile game. Then we have our GameDeveloper.com articles. A wrongful death lawsuit against Activision Blizzard has been dropped. The family involved requested the lawsuit be dismissed with prejudice, which I can only assume that they came to some sort of agreement with Activision Blizzard, some sort of settlement or sort, and that's why it's the family asking for it to be dismissed with prejudice. Otherwise, you would ask for it to be dismissed without prejudice so you could refile later. This is more likely, most likely, the story of the lady. CW, I guess in this case, means content warning and not the TV channel CW. They should probably spell that out. Yeah, this is probably the story of the lady that was either sleeping with or being sexually harassed by a colleague slash boss, maybe a boss, and then she committed suicide after the fact. So I assume they came to a settlement and the lawsuit has just been dropped. We already talked about Don't Nod rebranding to Don't Nod. We already talked about Shinji Hashimoto retiring. The UK mobile studio Hutch will trial a 4-day work week. Respawn and Maxis leaders have voiced support for transgender rights, which, yeah, Gay Pride Month now being expanded to LGBT Q plus QIA plus issues. Certainly at this point there isn't a lot of either need or desire, take your pick, to push specifically lesbians, gays, and bisexual people's rights. Once gay marriage became legalized in the United States, there wasn't an issue to push forward so much, and so then the focus has been more and more about transsexuals or gendered people. I guess transgendered is what they say now. And the Qs, which are or queer or questioning, that they've never had a big push. It gets into the weeds, certainly, as they try to find their next big movement. Let's see. GameDeveloper.com also has this article. An Electronics Art walkout was axed as the publisher adjusts its Pride Month players. The update here is an employee walkout has been called off after EA management confirmed it will not use any Pride themed logos in its marketing this month, which honestly I kind of appreciate that. Because Electronic Arts is just a video game company. It's a greedy video game company that doesn't even make very good video games. Them putting rainbow flags as their logo all over Twitter and other sites is not going to do anything really at all. It's slacktivism. You can see here there is a collection of characters from, I think, EA games, but I couldn't really tell you. And I would also fairly have to question if all of these characters being shown are trans. Like, it seems like awful lot of characters from one company or one collection of games. It seems really odd, though, that the walk-off would be called out, so it seems like the employee walkout was being actually coordinated by EA management. Unless the walkout was literally planned to complain about the company using The walkout was planned to highlight the hypocrisy of using pride imagery without backing the LGBTQ causes. The very specific grievance raised by staff has been addressed. Interesting. So, in a funny way, we've kind of gone full circle in this story, in which they're they were saying they were going to do a walkout unless they don't use just the pride flag, but actually make some substantive statement in support of transgender rights, in particular transgender rights. I don't know why. That seems to forget everything else. And EA effectively caved and said, fine, let's put out this picture and be done with it, and stop the walkout. And it stopped the walkout, which I'm a little surprised it did. Xbox, also, GameDeveloper.com says, has prepped trans right donations in the wake of increased transphobic sentiments. Which, yeah. And then something not having to do with Pride Month. GameStop's expanding losses still lead to a stock surge. GameStop is losing more money than ever, and yet investors seem infatuated with its stock. Which, okay. Of course, a lot of that is just Wall Street bets investing more and more into GameStop, which is fine. Like, if GameStop eventually loses enough money that all the other people who are actually just trying to profit off of GameStop stocks sell to people who I think actively would like to own and run GameStop, that would be great. That would, in a lot of ways, reinvigorate the idea of companies being owned by actual shareholders instead of major investment corporations and investment groups. But at the moment, a major investment group does own GameStop, and I'm not sure if there's any amount of money that individual investors have that can potentially strangle control away. Meanwhile, I would definitely hope that all the Wall Street Bets people are figuring out who's going to be their leader and who's going to sit on the board and who's going to have ideas to make GameStop as a company actually successful when it gets down to the nitty-gritty of actually being a company and actually making profit, instead of it just being a stock that people are trading, rich people are trading. Moving on and wrapping up, we have our fall list games here. We have a card-based military game from February, so I'll give that some more time. We have Duels versus Zombie Hunters, which is mixed still. And it's only on the fall list because Onichamba Z2 is on the fall list, but I think there might be a point here where Onichamba Origin may just reboot the Onichamba series, and there might be a new one. So I think it is getting ridiculous to have this on the fall list. It's a bad game, clearly. And then here we have Sex Robot Road Trip. Looks like a joke game, and as interesting as the title sounds, the actual game itself looks like garbage, so I think we can take that off the fall list. Then we have Severed Steel, single player first person shooter, which is out of early access. It's rated very positively, so that can go to the wish list. Seventh Layer is an interesting art style visual novel, which I guess I'll put it on the wish list since it is rated very positively. Seventh Angel, on the other hand, has no reviews, so I'm gonna have to say no to that, I think, just because it's not relevant. It's also still in early access. Seven Wonders of St. Clementine. It's another horror game with not enough reviews. I'm gonna leave this one on the fall list though and come back and look at it later. It's probably a no. 2. Seven Doors is mixed, so that can leave the fall. It's a bunch of things with 7 in the name. Session Skate Sim is very positive, and yes, still in early access from 2019. That's what's the problem there. Otherwise, it would be on the wish list. Serious Sam Kamikaze Attack. I'll go ahead and put that on the wish list. It's rated very positively. And then we have a game called Symphony, which is rated very positively. So we'll put that on the wish list too. Interesting. So yeah, we've only been going 2 hours, but I am pretty sleepy, so I'm going to end the stream in just a second. Let me just scroll down my Twitter feed and see if there's any really big news. I don't think there really is going to be any big news, and then we probably may have a little bit more work than I'll like on Friday. So that's it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.